Hey everyone, Mr. G here, back with another reading lesson. Today is Thursday, April 23rd, and what our goal is today is to see just a little model of how to answer a question by using our new strategy, which is describing the logical connections between sections of text. So let's get started right here. Today's goal is to be able to describe the logical connection between sections of text and identify whether or not the text structure is a compare and contrast text structure, uses sequence and order, or cause and effect. So let's just recap what we learned yesterday. There are three different text structures that we usually see. The three different text structures are sequence and order, compare and contrast, and cause and effect. And sequence and order puts information in a sequence, right? First, second, third, next, last. Compare and contrast compares how two things are alike or different. So, for example, you can see that little logo right there. Apples and oranges are both fruits. They have skin and they're healthy, right? That's how you compare them. But how are they different? Oranges have more acid, they're a little sour, and apple has a thinner skin than an orange, right? So that's how you tell the difference between comparing and contrasting. But authors use that text structure when they are writing as well. And they use different keywords and a cause and effect, why something happens because of something else. So if this happens, then this happens, right? Those are text structures that we often see. So when you're trying to describe the logical connections between sections of text, there's a strategy that I'm going to show you guys today that's going to help you. So, of course, every time that we read something, we just want to read it the first time to get familiar with the content, get familiar with it, enjoy the text, and just read it for the first time for a little bit of understanding. But then the second time we read it, what we're going to do is we're going to pay attention to how the author makes you aware of the events or the information presented. And then what text structure are they actually using? And the text structure that they're using is actually usually very important to your understanding. So as you read the text, look for those key words that we saw in yesterday's video, right? And ask yourself, does the author help me understand the text by making comparisons of different things in the text? Does the author use cause and effect? Do they present an event and then explain what happened as a result of the event? Does the author help me understand things by putting things in an order like first, second, next, then, last? And as you read, highlight or underline those key words or phrases that help you connect the information so you can understand it. So what we're going to do today is compose an answer to a question that focuses on this text right here. And this is a text about frogs and how they develop, entitled From Egg to Frog. So got some cool pictures in here. Mr. G is going to read it out loud to you guys. Remember, the first time we're just going to read it for enjoyment and just to develop a rough understanding of the content. But then we're going to go into how to actually answer a question. So sit tight and listen up. Make sure that you guys don't have any distractions. You can pause the video if you need to as we go, but read along with me. When the first warm spring rains fall, a mother wood frog leaves her winter bed on the forest floor. She hops to a nearby pond and lays more than 1,000 eggs in the water. There is a dark shadow in the middle of this egg. That is where the baby frog is growing. It is called an embryo. Clear, gooey jelly surrounds and protects the embryo. The embryo grows quickly. As the embryo grows, green seaweed in the pond turns jelly around the eggs green. That helps hide the egg from animals that might eat it. When the embryo is big enough, it breaks out of the egg and swims in the water. Now it is called a tadpole. Like a fish, it has gills for breathing underwater and a tail for swimming. But the tadpole's body changes fast. The tadpole is getting ready to leave the pond and live on land. First, its back legs grow. Next, the tadpole gets front legs. As its legs grow longer and stronger, its tail gets smaller and smaller. The tadpole's body changes inside too. It takes about 2 months for the tadpole to grow legs and lose its tail completely. Now it is a fully grown frog. It has lungs for breathing air and strong legs for hopping on land. It will find a home under fallen leaves in the forest. Then one spring night, it will return to the pond to lay eggs of its own. So we just read it the first time. And I can see here that the author does a few different things. One, what's the main idea of this piece? Well, the main idea is that, frogs start out as tadpoles and develop over time. And it's a slow process. They start out as a little egg, but then eventually they grow into a frog and have eggs of their own. That's the main idea. But we also need to consider, how is the author organizing this information? Well, what could he be comparing? What could he be putting in a sequence? What cause and effects are inside this text? So, just to recap, I know that a comparison tells similarities or differences between two or more things. A cause and effect describes why one or more things occur. And then sequential order puts things in the time order, or tells the ordered steps to do or make something, or the ordered steps that things happen. I already know that there is definitely sequence and order in this, because an egg becoming a frog is a sequence in and of itself, right? And then a comparison, well, it could also be comparing a frog and a tadpole, right? Because they are two different things, right? I mean, a tadpole is going to become a frog, but they do have some differences. So you should probably reread the text again just to double check and think about how the information is being presented by the author. And I'm going to think about how the words, the sentences, and the paragraphs connect to help me understand what happens in the text. And then I'm going to look for those key words I learned all about to help me determine what text structure the author is using. I'm going to highlight keywords and information that tells me what's happening and then tells me how they're presenting the information. So let's take a look here. When the first warm spring rains fall, a mother wood frog leaves her winter bed on the forest floor. She hops to a nearby pond and lays more than 1,000 eggs in the water. There is a dark shadow in the middle of this egg. That is where the baby frog is growing. It is called an embryo. Clear, gooey jelly surrounds and protects the embryo. The embryo grows quickly. As the embryo grows, the green seaweed in the pond turns jelly around the egg green. That helps hide the egg from animals that might eat it. When the embryo is big enough, it breaks out of the egg and swims in the water. Now it is called a tadpole. I highlighted these key words here and these phrases because they are talking about the process that is occurring between the time a mother egg or a mother frog lays an egg and the time that egg becomes a tadpole or grows into a tadpole. So it starts out, lays the eggs in the water. The embryo grows. The embryo, when it's big enough, it breaks out of the egg and swims in the water. But then the author also uses the word now to say now it is a tadpole. So they're also saying, okay, now it's a tadpole. Like a fish, it has gills for breathing and a tail for swimming. So he's comparing an egg to a tadpole as well. But the tadpole's body changes fast. See? But. That's a key word right there. But the tadpole's body changes fast. The author is now comparing how a tadpole's body looks in the beginning of its life to its later life. The tadpole is getting ready to leave the pond and live on land. First, its back legs grow. First, a key word here, sequence and order. Next, the tadpole gets front legs, talking about the process. I even included a little picture that shows this process right over here. As its legs grow longer and longer, its tail gets smaller and smaller. The tadpole's body changes inside too. There's even a little cause and effect here. See, as its legs grow stronger and stronger, as a result, its tail gets smaller and smaller because it doesn't need the tail anymore, right? So that's a cause and effect relationship right there. It takes about 2 months for the tadpole to grow legs and lose its tail completely. Now it is a fully grown frog. So they're saying now because, okay, finally we are at a fully grown frog. And then one spring night, it will return to the pond to lay eggs of its own. So then again, sequence and order. This is a cycle, a life cycle. Starts as an egg, becomes a frog, and then the frog lays eggs of their own. So if we were to make a response from these, let's say that my teacher had asked me this question. The teacher had asked me, how does the author present information in the text, what text structure do they use? Do they use compare and contrast? Do they use cause and effect? Do they use sequence and order? This is what a response might look like. So here's a sample response that I have. The red is an introductory sentence. So I'm identifying the text structures in my first sentence. So I'm saying the author presents information from egg to frog in a sequential order and uses comparisons to help the reader better understand how a frog egg grows into a frog. Do you see how in my first sentence, I'm already identifying the text structures? I'm not doing anything but that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use identifying words in the next sentence to identify the text structure and keywords. And then in the green, my evidence from the text that shows, okay, what is the author really telling me in this part? What is he showing a process of? What sequence is he showing here? So words such as now, first, next, and then signal to me that there is a first, second, third sequence to the information being presented. Each of the paragraphs connects to each other in the order that the egg develops into a tadpole and then into a frog. I also felt that the author made a comparison between the tadpole when it first breaks out of the egg and when it's 2 months old and has legs and it's losing its tail. The author's use of sequence helps me understand how the frog egg grows into a frog, and the comparison helps me understand what the tadpole looks like when it's born and when it's 2 months old. So this is a sample response that shows what different text structures the author uses. So tomorrow, what you guys are going to do is you're going to apply this strategy to My Life Hasn't Changed and answer a text-dependent question. You guys can refer to this video and use the sample response that I have posted below the video as well. So I hope you guys found this helpful, and I guarantee this is going to make it a lot easier for you guys to answer those questions in a very systematic way and identify the text structures as well. All right, take care, everyone.